It was a gray morning in Normandy when 98-year-old World War II veteran Kara Troy Robbins, known to most as KT, clutched an old black and white photograph. The edges were frayed, the image faded, but the face on that paper had never left his heart. For 75 years, through the chaos of life, through war, marriage, and loss, he had kept it tucked away like a treasure. It was the face of Janine, the girl he loved in France back in 1944. In the middle of one of history's darkest chapters, when the world was divided by bombs and fear, a young American soldier and an 18-year-old French beauty had somehow found light in each other. KT was only 24 when he met her. She couldn't speak English, and he barely knew French. Yet love doesn't always need words. They laughed, they walked, they shared stolen moments in a world that promised them nothing but uncertainty. Their romance was short, fragile, and beautiful, and then it was gone. The war demanded KT's return to the Eastern Front. Orders came suddenly. He remembered the hurried goodbyes, the tears in her eyes, the sound of the truck pulling away as she waved, shrinking in the distance. He survived the battles that followed, but in his heart he knew something had been left behind forever. When the war ended, KT returned to America. He tried to move forward, to build a life. He married, had a family, and built new memories. But Janine was always there, not in his home, but in his heart. He kept her photograph through the decades, through every move, every hardship, every joy. She was the one who got away, the face he never forgot. What he didn't know was that Janine had never forgotten him either. When peace finally returned to France, she even learned English, holding on to the hope that one day perhaps KT would come back. But he never did. She too married another, and life carried her along. Yet her thoughts often drifted to the soldier who had stolen her heart in the summer of 1944. Now, more than 7 decades later, fate decided to intervene. KT was invited to attend the anniversary of D-Day in Normandy. His wife had passed away, and the thought of returning to France stirred something inside him. At 98, he doubted Janine could possibly still be alive. Sure, I won't ever get to see her, he said softly. She's probably gone now. But he hoped, if nothing else, to at least find her family, to tell them she had once been loved deeply by an American soldier. With that thought, KT reached out to a group of French journalists, asking if they could help him locate her relatives. What happened next was beyond anything he could have imagined. On the plane ride across the ocean, one of the journalists leaned toward him with a smile. "We're going to meet her," the journalist whispered. KT blinked, not sure if he had heard correctly. The man repeated it, his voice steady, his words almost unbelievable. "She's alive, and she's waiting for you." The old soldier's breath caught in his throat. His hands trembled around the photograph he had held for 75 years. He had dreamed of this moment countless times, but he had never believed it could actually come true. When the car finally pulled up to the quiet village in France, KT's heart raced faster than it had in years. Journalists, neighbors, and family members waited nearby, their eyes fixed on the frail old soldier clutching a photograph. And then, from across the garden, a door opened. There she was. Janine Pearson, now a widow like KT, stepped slowly forward. The years had lined her face, but her eyes, the same eyes he had fallen for in 1944, still held that familiar sparkle. For a moment, neither of them moved. It was as if time itself had paused to honor their reunion. Then, suddenly, KT stood, his body trembling but determined, and they closed the distance between them. Their embrace was immediate, desperate, and filled with 75 years of unspoken words. KT held her tightly, burying his face against her shoulder, tears streaming freely. Janine kissed his cheek again and again, whispering his name as if afraid he might disappear. The cameras clicked, but for them the world melted away. "When he left in the truck, I cried," Janine admitted softly, recalling that painful day in 1944. "I wish after the war he hadn't returned to America. I've always thought of him, thinking maybe he'll come." Her voice cracked with emotion. And here he was, her soldier, her first love, returned after nearly 8 decades. They spent hours together, sitting side by side, their hands intertwined like young lovers. KT pulled out the photograph he had kept all these years, showing her how her youthful smile had never left his wallet, never left his heart. She laughed, then cried, as memories flooded back walks in the countryside, stolen glances, the hope that had once burned so brightly between them. Neighbors watched in awe. To them, it was more than a reunion. It was proof that love, even when interrupted by war and distance, never truly dies. But time, relentless as always, forced them to face another goodbye. When KT's visit drew to an end, the moment of parting came once more. He stood at the car door, his eyes locked on hers, unwilling to let go. "Janine, I love you, girl," he said, his voice shaking. She reached for his hand, her tears glistening in the afternoon light. They embraced again, holding on as if they could stop the clock, refusing to let 75 years separate them a second time. Finally, KT stepped back, promising her that this time he wouldn't wait another lifetime to return. "We will see each other again," he said. As the car pulled away, Janine waved, her figure growing smaller in the distance just as it had all those years ago. But this time, the goodbye was different. There was no war pulling them apart, no uncertainty about survival. There was only the knowledge that love, even when delayed by a lifetime, can still find its way home. For KT and Janine, their reunion wasn't just about the past. It was a reminder to the world that some bonds are too strong for time to break. In the twilight of their lives, they had been given a gift. Proof that love endures, waiting patiently in the corners of our hearts, ready to bloom again when fate finally allows.